Hello everyone and welcome back to another reaction video. We'll be reacting to Is the Lion Actually the Strongest Primarch? Warhammer 40k by the cow himself. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I will leave a link to the original video in the description below. I will also leave the Fallen Cow channel. Does like extra excellent content for all of us, and he's very good. And he's one of the reasons why I went into more Warhammer. Really, I think he does an excellent job breaking down the characters. He's very good at dissecting the lore and giving us the meat and the potatoes of it. But without further ado, let's just get into it.
Hello, my beloved herd. Today, we're not just talking about lore or power scaling. No. I'm here to do something far more important. To sell you on the Lionel Johnson agenda. Yes, you heard me right.
Aww.
The agenda. Some might call it heresy, others might call it pure fact, but this agenda is built on cold, hard stats, canon excerpts, and feats that prove that the Lion is one of the strongest Primarchs in the current setting of 40k, no matter his current, aged state. And yes, that means I think he's beyond Rabute Gilliman, Corvus Corax, or dare I say, even some of the Demon Primarchs. This man has feats and statements that put him on par with Angron in raw strength, can move as fast as Jagatai Khan, and may very well be the best duelist of all the Primarchs. By the end of the video, you'll either see the Lion agenda in full glory, or well, let's just say you might wake up tomorrow without a planet.
Oh shit! But yeah, he does make a good observational point, because his legion, the Dark Angels, each have their own factions or what they do, and it is possible that each of those factions represent each legion of Space Marines, which is, I mean, plausible. And plus, the emperor always favored him as his sons. In fact, he entrusted them with Dark Age technology, which is very interesting, because you wouldn't think like someone like Alfarius would do something like that, but I think Big E know that Alfarius is just, well, he's basically a fucking whatchamacallit, tax fraud, if that makes any sense.
So let's jump straight into the cowhole.
All right.
It's time to push my agenda.
Let's do this. I'm very excited what he gonna do in Dawn of War. That's the one
So
thing I
before
really
I
like.
start selling you on it, what exactly is an agenda? In the world of power scaling, an agenda is essentially when an individual, like myself, pushes a very specific narrative to make their favorite character look stronger than everyone else, while conveniently ignoring anything that might suggest otherwise. Sometimes agendas are ridiculous, sometimes they're pure cope, but sometimes they're actually well supported by lore and facts. If you clicked on this video, I imagine you already know what this means, because I will be shamelessly shoving it down your throats throughout this video, as what can only be described as the Lionel Johnson agenda. Now, before anyone starts typing an essay in the comments, let me be very clear about what I am and what I am not arguing here. I am not claiming that Lionel Johnson can rival the Emperor, and I am certainly not arguing that he can defeat God Emperor Horus at the height of his power. That level of power exists in a completely different weight class, and no Primarch is realistically competing with that. What I am arguing is that Lionel Johnson in the current era of Warhammer 40k might actually be one of the strongest Primarchs, let alone the strongest Primarch, even when compared across the entire spectrum of Primarch power levels. That means when you place him next to a loyalist Primarch like Rabute Gilliman, Or even when you look at the warp enhanced or demonic versions of the traitor Primarchs, the lion still has feats, statements, and combat performances that suggest he belongs at the very top of those conversations. When you examine his strength, speed, instincts, and especially his dueling ability, there is a very real argument to be made that the lion might be one of the most dangerous Primarchs the Emperor has ever created.
And I really stand to that fact because he just looks like a Dark Soul character. And if you play Dark Soul or by any type of Soul games like Elden Ring or what was the other? Was it Bloodborne? No, it wasn't Bloodborne. Was it Bloodborne? Oh yeah, I think it was Bloodborne. Yeah, he looks like he had been playing that shit all the time. He always plays those types of video games. That's why he's so fucking OP.
That is the agenda I will be pushing today. Over the course of this video, we are going to go through feats, excerpts, and statements that help build this case piece by piece, and by the
Also, one more thing I want to point out. I feel like he is the strongest for me because he has some like unique alliances. Uh, for example, the Watchers of the Dark. Now, these little Jawas looking motherfuckers, they really don't like chaos and very secretive, and they seem to put every demon to either shame or fear. Because one time a changeling, basically some hooded figure from Zinj, went into the rock and just causing a lot of havoc. But once he ran into a a watcher, he was absolutely terrified on looking at this thing that he just ran away. To put you to perspective, the watchers have the balls to put Nurglings in Korn's throne so that he would have a whoopee cushion. And another time, there was a watcher who went into the bedroom of Slanesh and then using a I don't know, like a corn axe, a corn sword, or something like that, to cut a piece of hair out of the Prince of Thirst. So if the lion is like having alliance to these beings, what more can I say? Like I feel like that's sort of lament to the power scaling, but that's my opinion. I mean, you could make sense. Like, why not? Like, maybe Sanguinius. Why doesn't Sanguinius have any like supernatural, beings that have his back? But that's just my theory, a Warhammer theory.
end of this video, you will witness two things: a falling cow glazing the hell out of Lionel Johnson, and two, you will be fully converted to the Lionel Johnson agenda.
I bet it's March, so it is Lion Month.
Without further ado, let's get into it.
The Lionel Johnson agenda.
Let's start with nailing down the Lion's base form stats from the 30k era of the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy. First off, he is said to be incredibly skilled and a master swordsman. He was even called the Duelist by Chaos in the Book Aurelian, which implies he is one of the best fighters among the Primarchs. For comparison, Conrad Kurz is called the Killer, Angron the Fighter, and Russ the Brawler. So yeah, the Lion's playing chess while the others are kinda just swinging chairs at each other. This reputation is supported by his feats. He defeats Conrad Kurz multiple times throughout the Heresy, and disarms Leman Russ within moments of their fight beginning in the book The Great Wolf. The Age of Darkness rulebook also emphasizes this point, stating, despite this honored place, the Lion remained apart. For though his strategic skill and talent with a blade rivaled that of Horus himself. Horus Heresy Book 9 Crusade adds, among his brother Primarchs, the Lion was renowned for his prowess in combat. But not because of any unique tricks or subtle blade work that might confound his foe. He was neither the exquisite duelist that Fulgrim epitomized, nor the raging berserker that Angron was, but rather something more terrifying. He fought with absolute focus and a chilling detachment, unstoppable on the attack and immovable on defense.
And that's why I say that he is a pro on Dark Souls.
And once brought to battle, he knew no other end than victory or death. So it's pretty clear from these statements that the lion is arguably the best duelist among the Primarchs.
Yeah.
Next, let's talk speed. One of his greatest feats occurs in Savage Weapons, when he outright blitzes Gunrad Gers. A Primarch, I remind you, that has precognition, which means he can see the fucking future. Corswain was watching both Primarchs, yet never saw what happened. Such was the speed of the lion's movements. One moment, the two brothers were speaking, the lion's features cast down in contemplation, Kurze's eyes fever bright as he promised an ignoble fate. The next, Kurze's features twisted into a rictus of pain, blood running between his clenched teeth. The lion held tight to the grip of his blade, buried to the hilt in his brother's stomach, more than a meter of blood-stained steel thrust from the back of Kurze's armor. I have mentioned this feat many times, but it's, you gotta admit, pretty goddamn cool that the lion simply blitzes Conrad Kurze. This
Someone who
implies
can
that
see
the
the
lion's
future.
speed is top tier, possibly only rivaled by Fulgrim or Jagatai Khan, though official confirmation is limited. As for his strength, the lion casually throws Conrad Kurz around like a ragdoll and even manages to break his back. Yep, Bane style. The lion also KOs Lehman Russ at the end of their duel, although I will admit Lehman Russ wasn't really defending himself at that moment in time, but still, the lion was able to brawl with Lehman Russ for 3 straight days and survive with barely any injuries.
I mean, you just don't blame him. It's just his autism, Don't blame him for being such a potty pooper. But I will say, there's Lehman just thought about it and just say, this is quite stupid. Why are we fighting? But the lion didn't see that and he just, knocked the fuck out of him. But it's still impressive that he just, one-shotted one of his brothers that were described as the executioner. But then again, this guy get his ass handled so many times. Like, how are you doing your job?
This directly correlates with his durability, which is also equally impressive. In Lord of the First, he cups his hands over a plasma grenade, described as having a star's intensity. He even survives and later heals fully after surviving a duel with Kurz that left him with little of his skull remaining. So folks, it's
Damn.
pretty easy to see that the lion's skill, speed, strength, and durability are all off the charts.
Excellent argument. Approved.
In fact, his record in terms of Primarch duels from the Horus Heresy is 3 wins against Lehman Russ and Conrad Kurz,
And only
with only
one
one
loss?
loss against the Night Haunter
Yeah.
in Savage Weapons, because the lion rolled down a hill and Kurz landed on top of him.
And he
All of
was
these
playing
feats,
dirty.
statements, and stats immediately make base Lionel Johnson a top 5 Primarch. But here's where my agenda begins, because if you take this foundation and add to it the stuff we've seen in the current setting, it truly supports my agenda that the lion just might be the strongest. A statement from the Dark Angels 10th edition codex confirms that the lion not only regained all his powers after being weakened, but may be stronger than ever. His powers restored and greater, or at least stranger, than they had ever been. His eyes open to the reality he had awoken to. The lion sought the fallen. This suggests that the weakness he first experienced upon waking up is gone, but that even his warp powers have grown even further. The lion's warp power is called Forest Walk, which allows the lion to step into a spectral, forested realm and emerge nearly anywhere in the galaxy.
Which I'm very curious about. If I recall, there have been many times where he has the ability to go to planet, which is very broken. He basically have his own webway, since in the forest walk there's no like monsters. Oh well, there are monsters, but they're just normal monsters to a extent instead of chaos monsters. Which I want to know, has he ever like trapped someone in the forest? Like imagine just yeah, ensnare someone. That would be fucking broken. Oh, how about I don't know, like domain expansion. Like I want to see that. I really want to see that. There'll be domain expansion forest walk. I don't know, it would be fucking amazing. But let's continue.
It essentially functions as a kind of fast travel using a magical pocket dimension.
Yeah,
However,
something
it
like that.
seems to work best for the lion alone, and it doesn't always bring him to exactly the intended destination. Still, it's an incredibly powerful tool that adds a whole new layer to his kit in 40k. So if the lion is now stronger according to the 10th edition, that also means all of his base capabilities from 30k are effectively upscaled by this statement alone, which are even enhanced further by his new warp-based power. But the lion also wields a new toy in the current setting, which is the Emperor's Shield. And oh boy, oh
Basically,
my,
Captain
this
America,
is quite the
little
weapon. This
brother.
shield doesn't just block attacks, it appears to reflect them right back at the enemy. We see this multiple times during his fight with Angron in Arc of Omens, where it deflects even his most devastating blows. For example, when Angron comes crashing down with a full force meteoric descent, the lion braces, catches the impact on his shield, and the resulting burst of golden energy sends Angron flying backward.
I'm not gonna lie. Every time I imagine that, you guys watch One Piece, right? And you know how Sengoku has his like, Buddha form, and every time he can use this powerful shockwave. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking about like some like giant shockwave, but with the like instead of like a dong, you know. I always think about that, but I think it's more like a phoenix, not phoenix, a phoenix roar. Has they ever made an I think they did, but I think it was just a dog. But whatever, it's pretty awesome.
This is a demon Primarch, folks, who wreaked havoc during the Siege of Terra, has destroyed titans and even entire worlds, and the shield still just tanks it. In the Son of the Forest, the shield reflects a warp-infused attack from a demon, so it's not entirely unreasonable to argue that it can deflect both physical and psychic assaults, making it truly one incredibly powerful relic. Now let's move on to his actual feats that demonstrate the lion's strength, speed, durability, and skill, and this is where the agenda really starts to build, especially in his fight against Demon Primarch
Oh, here
Angron.
we go.
Their duel takes place on Wormwood, Vashtor's Caliban clone, a shifting, nightmarish world of living metal, crushing machinery, and collapsing terrain, where both Primarchs are forced to fight while the battlefield erupts around them. Despite this chaos, the lion can consistently clash with Angron as the two deflect and parry each other's blows. That alone is important because if the gap in strength between them was massive, the text would have made it very, very clear, and the lion simply would not be able to parry a strike from Angron. Instead, we see repeated weapon clashes, blocks, and movements, which strongly implies that his strength is at least comparable to that of a demon Primarch.
Also, one thing I would point out, a lot of people say that the only reason why Lionel Johnson was managing to, to beat Angron was because of the shield, which I would like to want to have a talk to you and say, have you been fucking paying attention? Like, it's not just the shield itself. It's about skill. It's about ability. It's about knowledge, which the lion did use. Like, why does everyone say that? I don't understand. Like, it's this specific thing that is keeping him alive. Like, come on, that feels cheap as shit. Jesus.
This also ties directly into speed. We know that demon Primarchs, especially Angron, can move at absurd levels. In Slaves to Darkness, Angron makes space and time fold as he moves. His form becomes a blur that is almost impossible to
So
track, but the
basically,
lion is still able to keep up.
like what you
He
call it,
manages to
fucking what was it, hyperspace? Is that how it is? Oh no, that's what I'm thinking.
react to nearly every strike, tracking and countering blows that should be far beyond mortal perception. There is a moment where Angron does catch him off guard, but even then, the lion still perceives the attack in time, bringing up the Emperor's shield at the last possible instant to block the incoming blow. That means his perception and reaction speed are incredibly high, even if he may not be outright faster. I will say this probably means the lion is slower than Sanguinius at his absolute peak during the Siege of Terra, because Sanguinius moves at the speed of light during his fight with Horus Lubrical, but thankfully for my agenda, and unfortunately for the Blood Angel fans, he's dead.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. In
Oh, I could
terms of
hear. I
skill, the
wait, wait, wait. I hear the typing. I could hear the angry typing of Sanguinius fans. Like, jeez. Oh no, there's so many. Cal, are you able to fight it off?
Lion is still operating at the highest possible level. The text explicitly states, yet he did not underestimate the supernatural might that Dark Hypothesis had granted the demon Primarch. The lion fought with every iota of skill he possessed, channeling all the lessons he had ever learned about combating wild and warp-tainted beasts. This is seen throughout the fight, as the lion studies, adapts, and begins forming a strategy to take down the demon Primarch. That
I told you, fucking Dark Souls game player. Like, come on, he is a Dark Soul player.
level of composure and tactical thinking, even while under relentless assault, is a clear demonstration that his skill has not diminished at all. His durability also appears to be as strong as ever. He tanks a direct kick from Angron that cracks his armor and sends him flying, and later gets hit in the face by an entire tank. But that's it, folks. Yep, he only gets hit twice in the entire fight. And even after getting hit those 2 times, the lion is largely fine outside of his armor.
I'm not sure if he's gonna mention this, but there was that one time where Angron's hits was so fucking devastating that it disrupted the universe itself. It said that when Angron was fighting Peter Turbo, Angron was hitting him so hard that time, space, reality was just going bullshit on it. You know that scene from from like Dragon Ball Z when Broly and no, it's not Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Super, where Broly and Gogeta they collided and just shattered reality. It's something like that, but not that big of a skill. And the lion, in his old age, is getting hit by those same attacks. Now, if someone say that they're not that powerful, who are you defending? This is Angron. You think Angron was gonna hold back? Like, since when does Angron hold back? I need to know. I need to know, when does Angron ever hold back?
Armor cracking, which is quite insane because Angron is able to easily lift hundreds of
Oh
tons.
yeah.
Metal squealed as he upended a stack of containers, hundreds of tons in weight, as if they were empty card boxes. Honestly, Sanguinius, during his fight with Angron, took much more punishment in his fight, which only makes the Lion's performance here look even better.
Oh
Most
yeah.
importantly, though, the Lion fights intelligently. He retreats tactically, repositions constantly, and uses the environment to his advantage. He drags Angron through hazardous terrain, forces him into awkward engagements, and slowly builds towards a decisive moment. He even leans into Angron's greatest weakness, his uncontrollable rage, baiting him into more reckless and predictable attacks. By the end of the fight, the Lion has fully adapted, using timing and precision to turn Angron's own momentum against him and land a decisive, banishing blow. So when you put all of this together, the Lion can clash with, react to, endure, and ultimately outplay one of the strongest demon Primarchs. Even with his tactical retreats throughout the fight, those are not signs of weakness. They are a calculated decision that allow him to control the pace and the outcome of the battle. But that's not the only feat we can use to build this agenda, because we also have the Lion's fights against the Primarch Thing, which guards the Emperor's shields from the book The Son of the
Oh yeah,
Forest.
that warp
Before we jump
entity.
into this, as opposed to the Lion at the time of the Angron fight, the Lion is much weaker in The Son of the Forest, as explicitly seen when he says, "If only that were true." Lionel Johnson mutters, "He overwhelmed the horde, yes, he broke their bodies, and was never in danger of succumbing. But unlike during the fight against the predators in the forest, he can now compare it to his previous battles. He finds himself wanting. They are minor differences. He is slightly slower, his blows carry a little less force, and his stamina does not seem to be quite what it once was. He is ready to fight again. He could still fight for hours against such opponents, but he can feel the difference. There is some malady at work here, he says. I'm slower than I should be. Kurz would have my flesh off my bones. He adds in a murmur as a phantom of his cackling, raven haired brother flashes through his memory. So here we have the lion outright stating that he feels slower, that his blows carry less force, and that his stamina isn't what it once was. He even compares himself to his past self and finds himself lacking, going as far to say that someone like Conrad Kurz would have torn him apart in this state. So obviously, this is not peak lion, this is a weakened or diminished version. Keep that in mind during this upcoming fight. This duel is essentially the lion running a full gauntlet against warp manifestations of multiple base Primarchs, including Leman Russ, Horus, Jagatai Khan, Magnus the Red, Mortarion, and others, all represented through shifting and a hostile warp entity. Now, I'll admit, there are different ways you can interpret this fight. You could argue that it's taking place purely within the lion's mind, or that it's more of a warp-induced hallucination rather than a literal physical battle. But here's the thing, if these manifestations are being drawn from the lion's own memories, then they should still reflect the capabilities of those Primarchs as he knew them.
Yeah, they
And that
should.
means we can absolutely use this feat to support my agenda. Because if that's the case, the lion is effectively fighting multiple base Primarch versions from the time of the Great Crusade, making this a gauntlet against multiple high-tier opponents, even if it's filtered through the warp. From a strength perspective, the lion is still able to physically contend with them, trading blows, throwing them, and resisting their attacks. He isn't getting instantly overpowered even in his weakened state, which already tells you his baseline is absurdly high. He's
Yeah.
grappling with beings replicating the base Primarchs who can lift hundreds of tons and toss tanks, yet he's still hurling Leman Russ into columns and knocking others off balance. Even diminished, he remains clearly relative. In terms of speed, things get even more impressive. The lion is reacting to attacks from multiple angles, dodging, countering, and repositioning in real time. He's also dealing with forms like Jagatai Khan, known for his extreme speed and still managing to respond. Yes, he slows down as the fight progresses, but the fact that he can keep up at all while weakened and being jumped by multiple 30k level Primarch opponents says a lot about his reaction speed and combat awareness. And even in this weakened state, his skill is still at peak performance. He's actively countering, adapting, and fighting intelligently, sweeping opponents, using dirt to blind Mortarion, breaking grapples, and constantly adjusting mid-fight. Durability is another major point. Throughout the entire fight,
Oh yeah,
the
he get
lion
hit
is
a
getting
lot.
battered, punched, kicked, slammed into structures, thrown around, and even impaled by a Kurz form. Yet, he keeps getting back up. The damage is clearly affecting him, but he never stays down. He continues fighting, resisting, and pushing forward.
Oh, one more thing to note is that when the Magnus duplicate punched him in the face, he said, "I know you're fake because Magnus would never punch that hard." It's probably one of the funniest moments ever in the not ever actually. I want to scratch it. It's just one of those greatest moments that I really really want to be animated. Like my question is, what animation style would work for like other the not just this book, but for everything? Like for me personally, I feel like the animators from Arcane would be like perfect with it. But what do you guys think? Let me know.
And most importantly, he still wins. Once he claims the Emperor's shield, the dynamic completely shifts. When the Kurz-like entity attacks, the lion blocks effortlessly, and the shield, an anathema to the warp, outright annihilates the warp entity. A weakened lion, who is slower, less powerful, and with reduced stamina, is still able to fight evenly with the base Primarchs. Then when you scale that back up to his full strength in 40k, especially with the addition of the Emperor's Shield, you can kind of see why my agenda is 100% correct. It may even be 120% correct at this point.
Wait. I have a biggest question. Could the shield reflect absolute zero? Um, from from Jujutsu, whatever, JJK, Goji. Like, could he reflect Purple Hollow? That's my the biggest question of the all. And I'm not gonna lie, For me, absolutely. I mean, he is the shield can handle Angron, who has the ability to disrupt, to just straight up say "fuck you, universe" and just destroy every element of it. So I don't think black hole, um, purple hollow will do any damage to the Emperor's shield. But what do you guys think? I really want to know. Speaking of which, what would be a perfect universe that the lion could be in? Like, okay, I am already into this agenda as well. I'm already in this agenda. I just picture, well, like maybe Star Wars, obviously, Arcane, Survival. Um, what else? What else? What else? What else? I don't know why my ass is thinking of Overwatch because the lion would make everyone just fucking cockroaches. Um, yeah, that's all I got. What be a perfect universe that the lion can be in? Really?
Goddamn right.
Outside of those two major fights, Lionel Johnson keeps stacking smaller but still very telling feats that reinforce just how absurd he is. In the 10th edition Dark Angels Codex, he's shown casually one-shotting a Hive Tyrant, and on top of that, his speed is portrayed as borderline perception breaking.
Oh wait, oh I forgot. Okay, there was a moment where when he like in the very first pages of the lion, waking up, he see these like people getting attacked by some chaos demons, and without nothing, he doesn't have his armor, his memory, his identity, nothing, and he still managed to kill them while in a weakened state, without any knowledge, without any like understanding of himself. He just kills them like just pure skill, which is very impressive. Like I know it's a Primarch, and Primarch can handle this shit, but the fact that he was reduced to zero and still managed to kill chaos like beast that could give any space marine a fucking hard time is really impressive. But I'm not sure if that counts as like an important feat. But hey, that's just me.
To him, a Space Marine attacking, with split seconds stretching into what feels like hours to the Lion. That kind of speed, combined with his ability to instantly read any opponent's strengths and weaknesses, makes him efficiently lethal. Add in the Codex statements describing him as one of the greatest warriors of humanity, defined by unmatched martial skill, tactical brilliance, and absolute loyalty, and you're looking at a Primarch who excels in every category that actually matters in a fight. When you layer that onto the Angron and Primarch thing fights, the picture becomes clear, fellas. The argument that the Lion surpasses all of the base Great Crusade Primarchs is quite easy to see, and that he easily scales over someone like Rabute Gilliman, who has struggled against every single demon Primarch he has fought.
You're not that guy.
Dude, I swear to God, it's so weird for me that Gilliman is having a fucking difficult time because doesn't he have like I don't know like the custodian that could help him train his skill? Like the custodians were Big G's like best friends, so surely he could just ask them, hey, can you teach me some skills, teach me like what to do in a fight. Like you could just ask that, but no, all you've been doing is raising gas prices, tariffs, and everything else that you had to spend money on, Rubute. Good job.
Hi, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And most likely Corvus Corax, who has not been seen for 10,000 years. And now armed with the Emperor's shield and fealty, he may be fighting at a completely different level. A level that is comparable to the Demon Primarchs. The only real friction points in my agenda are Magnus the Red and Lorgar, and I have to admit, it's pretty fair to assume that. Magnus is a genuine problem, because his psychic powers can theoretically delete a Primarch outright, and Lorgar potentially has access to Enuncia, which is a reality warping language that can command reality with a single word. But both of those come with caveats you can exploit. Lorgar hasn't actually demonstrated Enuncia in any meaningful current setting combat duel,
So basically,
so
just
scaling him
bullshit.
off that is speculative at
Yeah.
best, And while Magnus is insanely powerful, he has already shown his limits. He couldn't decisively put down Gilliman even before the Sisters of Silence intervened. And that is Gilliman, who is, quite simply put, a bum. That opens the door for the Lion to do what he does best.
And there's a theory that um any hack's abilities doesn't affect to a Primarch because of the Primarchs are made out of flesh and blood, and the souls from the warp. Basically like warp gods, but not too powerful warp gods, basically like little I don't know, like demigods or something like that. So that's why they could resist any hacks bullshit because they're from the warp, and the warp is just bullshit incarnate. But that's just a theory. I'm not sure about that. I'm very speculative.
Survive the initial onslaught, deflect or mitigate with his gear and reactions, close the distance, and turn the fight into a melee, where Magnus absolutely does not want to be. So when you weigh everything, feats, scaling, equipment, and matchups, Lionel Johnson consistently comes out on top more often than not. So let me ask you fellas, do you agree with my agenda? Did I convince you? Are you fully bought on
Well, I agree. I certainly damn agree about that.
to the Lion ship? Because if you are, good. Because I genuinely think we're about to be eating real good when the Lion finally reunites with Rabute Gilliman.
Oh shit.
With everything he's shown, his speed, his skill, his adaptability, and now the Emperor's shield, I see no argument that the Lion is not one of the strongest, if not the strongest Primarch in the current setting. For in the galaxy, he is the honored one. If you disagreed with my agenda, then here, have a slice of cake on me, and maybe a sip of totally not poisonous milk. Here, enjoy them, free of charge. If you guys want to see more agenda pushing like this, or just simply other silly power scaling videos, let me know down in the comments. A big
Alright.
shout out to all my Patreon and
Hey.
YouTube members. You guys are the reason I keep making all this silly content. Thanks Posse Paul, Tyler Pick 7, Musty, Keydree, Seth Capizilla, Lag, Cunning Carkle, Caleb White, Dinkleberry, and Omar.
Dinkleberry?
As always, my beloved,
Is that from Dinklebud? Never mind.
deeply heroic, very cool, and now loving Lionel Johnson fans, stay milked, and I'll see you in the next video.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious.
Bye. Oh. Well, that's really it. I really do think that Lionel Johnson is the strongest Warhammer 40k character not character, but just Primarch, sorry. Primarch in the current settings. So thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna leave a link to in the description down below with the channel of the Fallen Cow. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Bye.